What if the lawyer you just hired has no intention of ever fighting for you? Not because they're bad people, because their entire business model is built to settle your case as fast as possible, possibly leaving money on the table and simply moving on to the next case. They're called settlement mills, and from the outside, injured clients never know the difference. Here's why this matters. When you hire a personal injury lawyer, you get one shot, just one. And it's probably the first time you've ever had to hire a lawyer. So if you pick the wrong one, you don't get a do-over. Your case gets undersettled, your evidence disappears, and by the time you realize what happened, it might be too late. The most common thing we hear from people who come to us after being burned, they say, I hired this law firm 3 months ago and no one will call me back. That's 3 months of silence while their case sits on a shelf. And we're left hoping nothing got messed up early on so we can still keep the claim moving forward. Insurance companies know which firms are mills. They track everything. They know who files lawsuits and who doesn't. They know who settles after the second offer. They know who says they'll go to trial but never does. They subscribe to internal industry reports. They subscribe to Verdict Reporter, Settlement Reporter, Lawyers Weekly. They pull public data. They even have moles on trial lawyers' listservs listening in on what plaintiffs' lawyers are saying to each other. They're tracking at the firm level and by the individual attorney. And when they see a mill's name on your file, they lowball you because there's zero risk. If they don't think there's a chance they'll have to pay a policy or open a policy or put their insured's personal assets at risk, they're not paying you anything close to full value. You will never see the inside of a courtroom. And all that data, especially in this AI world that we're living in, lets them maximize profits for their shareholders by leveraging when a big case gets stuck in a settlement mill. So until you know the difference, and you're able to tell the difference, you're gambling with your one shot. On the surface, mills and real firms look almost identical. Both have websites, both run ads, both have intake staff who answer the phone. Both are going to ask you the same basic question. Were you at fault? Did you get hurt? Is there insurance? Do you already have a lawyer? That overlap is exactly what confuses people. The marketing works. It's designed to get you hooked. Speed and greed. Big numbers, fast settlements. It's convincing, and that's why firms do it. But remember, this is not a lottery. It's your life. It's your injury. The real difference shows up when the lawyering gets tough, when the client gets lowballed, when things pop up that require a court proceeding, that require litigation, to level the playing field and hold an insurance company's feet to the fire. Anybody can settle a minimum policy case when the medical bills are high. Anybody can do that. What sets a real firm apart is when you're getting lowballed. Maybe they're offering you $50,000 on a $100,000 case. And the only way to close that gap is to file a lawsuit, to take depositions, hire the experts, spend the money on investigation and courtroom exhibits, get the case to a mediator, and ultimately fight for what your case is actually worth. A settlement mill is never going to do that. Here are 5 things that you can check right now. Step 1, ask if they file lawsuits. Not whether they can, whether they do. Then go look it up yourself. Every county has a public index. Search the firm name. Search the lawyer's name. If they're not filing lawsuits, they're not fighting for their clients. In our firm, if the insurance company doesn't pay the demand that we send within 90 days, a lawsuit gets filed. Period. There's no negotiating in circles. Straight to litigation. Sometimes we file right after intake because we know it's going to take 1.5 years to get a trial date and we don't want the client waiting any longer than they have to. Step 2, ask how many cases they've taken to trial in the last 3 years. Not this year. 3 years. Even for a real trial lawyer, it's hard to get a trial date these days. It can take 1.5 years to get one, but in 3 years, a real litigator has been in a courtroom. They've picked juries. They've had insurance companies show up at the courthouse steps with a checkbook because they realized, hey, this lawyer is actually going to try this case today. If the answer is 0, well, that's a problem for you. If the lawyer's never seen the inside of a courtroom, that's your sign to walk away. Step 3, search Lawyers Weekly. Every state has one. It tracks large settlements, large verdicts, even defense verdicts. If the lawyer tried a case and got a Purple Heart, it's on there. At least you know he or she was fighting for their clients. If there's nothing on the reports, that tells you something too. Step 4, read Google reviews and actually read them. Not the ones that talk about how nice the intake experience was. Not the ones that look like they came from a friend of the firm or someone doing a focus group. Look for reviews from real clients talking about real outcomes. It takes some digging, but you've got to do your homework. Remember, this is your life. your injury and your one shot. Step 5, ask someone local who you trust. People in your community know. Word gets around about which firms actually fight and which ones just collect. Ask your neighbor. Ask your boss. Ask someone in your church. Now here's what's really happening behind the scenes at a mill. Your file's being handled day to day by case managers and legal assistants who are simply going down a task list, not paralegals, case managers. Some mills even use non-attorney negotiators. The lawyer gives them a range and says, hey, see if you can negotiate this case into this range. In South Carolina, that's not just a red flag, that's the unauthorized practice of law. A non-licensed person negotiating on behalf of a client, that's an ethical violation. We've had clients come to us who fired their previous firm, and when we ask, do you know if this was done or that was done? Do you have a copy of your file? It's just total oblivion for them. They have no idea what's going on. It's usually been months. Sometimes these are very good high-value cases that are just being sat on and neglected. They'd never once spoken to the attorney whose name was on their paperwork. That conversation is always sad for us. You called because you can't get treatment? Well, good luck getting someone on the phone. You called them, you needed help with property damage? You're on your own. Your health insurance billing is a mess. Well, hey, figure it out, because it's not next on their task list. It's not getting done. In our office, we have a client portal. Think of it kind of like the Domino's pizza tracker everybody's used to for your case. You can log in, you see exactly what phase your case is in. You can text our case management system and get a response within 24 hours from the lawyer or the paralegal assigned to your file. And every 30 to 45 days, we make a required voice phone call. Not a text, not an email, a voice phone call. Because when you actually talk to someone, as a lawyer, I'm going to hear things that I'm never going to catch in writing. You learn how the injury is really affecting your life, how it's affecting your work, how it's affecting your family. Those details matter. They become elements of your damages, and you can't pick that up from a text message or an email. Then there's the medical piece, which mills handle completely different. Listen, your health is priority number one, but a lot of people don't have health insurance. They're scared. They never had to deal with doctors like this before. And they truly develop what I call treatment fatigue. They just stop going. Well, as a lawyer, you have to keep them going. I got to coach my clients and tell them to articulate what's happening in their life to their doctor so it becomes part of the medical record. And you have to help them find the right specialists. A brain injury needs a neuropsychologist in most cases. A scar from a dog bite probably needs a plastic surgeon. A TBI needs specialized therapy. You can't just rely on an urgent care or a family practitioner to map out what's next, because those providers are simply running off standard medical guidelines as well. A mill just waits for treatment to end, orders the medical records, and moves on. We're having phone conversations every 30 days. Helping clients get the treatment that they actually need. And if they can't find a provider, we have a network of doctors, therapists, and specialists who can treat our clients on a lien or letter of protection, which essentially means they agree to get repaid out of the eventual settlement. That way the client gets healthy first. Then we work up the settlement. You only get one shot at your health, and that's not something you rush through via a task list. Here's what the actual negotiation looks like side by side. A mill sends a demand, goes back and forth, here's best offer, take it or leave it from the insurance company, then tries to beat up the medical bill providers on the back end to accept less than what they're owed so the numbers work out. Then they settle and it's over. In our office, we send a policy limits demand, not a number. We want the full policy. This is your one and only chance to protect your insured's personal assets. You have 21 to 30 days, Mr. Insurance Company. Medical records, investigation, expert reports, pictures, exhibits, everything's going to be attached. If they tender the policy, great. That's the best outcome. That's what we're looking for the client. If they lowball us, we file a lawsuit. We get the case out of the hands of some junior adjuster who's fresh out of school or reading off some AI algorithm with no real authority. Once a lawsuit is filed, it's going to be reassigned to a senior litigation adjuster. And we've had cases where before the answer's even due, the phone rings, hey, will you take the policy now? That only happens when there's risk. And risk only exists when the lawyer across the table has actually tried cases before. I've seen it firsthand. We put our name on a case that was at a stalemate under another firm and send the same demand on our letterhead, working it the lovely law firm way, and we get a policy tender. Every case is different and there are no guarantees. but you have a better chance with someone who's willing to go the distance. When a case needs to actually go to trial and the firm is a mill, one of two things happens. Either that client's going to fire them, or that firm's going to call a firm like ours a litigation firm and co-counsel, and then we'll actually work it up and litigate it. I'll give you a real example of what happens when someone hires the wrong firm first. A client was in a catastrophic motorcycle accident. We're talking brachial plexus injury. Terrible, terrible injury. Lifelong damage to the entire left side of their body. Lucky to be alive. They hired a lawyer who did nothing on this. Months went by. Then, that lawyer sent a disengagement letter. The client gets this letter in the mail. There's nothing I can do for you. Here's your file. By the time we got the case, the evidence was disappearing. It was gone. The crash video was gone. We were lucky to find footage of the aftermath, but if someone had been on this from the start, they would have been able to preserve everything. The biker had been found at fault, but only because they were catastrophically injured and in the back of an ambulance and couldn't give their side of the story. That's biker prejudice at play. You've got to investigate, fight, and turn the table for someone who can't fight for themselves. This prior firm did nothing, and now we're fighting an uphill battle for this client. Not just against the insurance company, but against the damage done by the first firm's neglect. It's hard enough educating the public on what to do before they hire a lawyer. You've seen a lot of my videos. Don't give a recorded statement, talk to a lawyer before you sign anything, get the medical treatment you need. But it's an even harder problem when we've got to undo someone else's mistakes. That's the real cost of a settlement mill. Not just a smaller check. It's lost evidence, mistreatment, months of silence, and sometimes the only honest advice we can give is to hire a legal malpractice lawyer and pursue a recovery that way. Before you sign with anyone, know three things. 1, understand your fees. These cases are handled on a contingency fee. Be clear on the numbers going in. 2, understand the scope. Will they litigate? Will they go to trial? Do they handle property damage, appeals, ancillary issues? Some firms put it right in their fee agreement that they do not litigate. Read it. Number 3, make sure they've done cases like yours before. If you need a heart surgeon, you don't go to a podiatrist. They're both doctors, but you need the specialist. I started practicing in 2009. Early on, it was trial and error. And frankly, I didn't really know what I was doing in the beginning. But a few early clients had faith in me and my wife, Amy, and they helped the lovely law firm Injury Lawyers grow. When we decided personal injury law was what we wanted to do, we built every system and every process with the client in mind to maximize their recovery and to maximize their experience. Listen, I can't guarantee an outcome, but I can guarantee the service you'll get from my staff, how you'll feel, and that we're never going to bullshit you. We'll tell you how it is. I'm going to be upfront with you. You're paying us to maximize your settlement, and that's what we're going to do for you. There's nothing more fulfilling than getting a client's medical bills taken care of, their property damage fixed, and handing them a settlement check, and giving a nice big black eye to an insurance company. That's why we do this. If you're in South Carolina, do your homework. And if you want to talk to a firm that files lawsuits, will try cases, and picks up the phone, the lovely law firm Injury Lawyers is here.